So UFC 303 is in jeopardy. Let's be honest, the McGregor fight, it's not happening, okay? It's done. It's done. Not looking good. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to tell you guys exactly why Conor McGregor's pulling out. And I'm also going to tell you what the replacement for McGregor and Chandler should be. At the end of this video, I'm going to save the card with a card builder and a main event. But let's talk about this. We all know that the Dublin press conference, which was supposed to happen on Monday, it was kind of put together at the last second. It got canceled. I didn't think it was anything serious. I mean, I thought it was a bad look at first, but I was thinking maybe it's just a big power move that Conor McGregor's trying to pull on Michael Chandler, getting him to fly out to Dublin to waste his time, only to cancel at the last second, which again, probably wasn't the best idea of what that could have been. A lot of people thought McGregor was just having a bender and he was simply too drunk to show up, but I don't think that's the case, because since then, the UFC has, with ESPN, their main partner for broadcasting these fights, they have removed the ability to buy or pre-order, I should say, UFC 303 on ESPN Plus. They have removed the free fight with Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz that was posted just yesterday on the UFC's official YouTube page, along with multiple other viral Conor McGregor free fights that are on the UFC's YouTube page. So McGregor pulls out of the press conference, so the press conference is canceled. The UFC deletes a bunch of Conor McGregor fights on their official YouTube page. That's the guy that brings in the most views. Why on earth would they do that? They deleted the ability to pre-order UFC 303, which is being marketed around McGregor and Michael Chandler. What the fuck is going on? Well, I think what's most likely is that McGregor is having contract disputes with the UFC. First of all, let's remember when the UFC announced this fight, it was in passing. It was after a UFC event. I believe it was UFC 30, or maybe it was UFC 300. So after UFC 300, when everyone's going crazy about the card, they announced 3 events in a row. Oh yeah, and McGregor's going to be fighting too. It was not really like a big grandiose announcement. It was kind of put together in a weird way, because just weeks before, McGregor was basically alluding to him having contract disputes with the UFC. And I believe that he's not being paid enough. I know he has a couple fights left on his contract, but there's always something special with McGregor. They're not just paying him like everyone else. I think that McGregor's not happy with his situation with the UFC, and he's probably trying to, strong arm them into giving him a better deal or giving him a better situation or more power. And they're probably not having any of it. The other theory that I have is that McGregor, he's been partying. He's been having a good, jolly old time. He's been staying up late. Even if he's sober, he shouldn't be out staying up late at the Black Forge. And I know he's got to market the place, but, you don't need to be there every single night. I think McGregor's been having a bit too much fun. And I think Coach Kavanaugh told Conor McGregor, hey, listen, we're getting pretty close to this fight. You're sparring with these bantamweight cans that fight at Bellator once every 2 years. You're sparring with the taxi drivers that are put on Bellator prelims for whenever Bellator comes to Dublin. These guys fight once every 5 years. These are bantamweights. We've got to get some real guys in here. And McGregor probably said, all right, let's get some real guys in here. Because McGregor's getting confident sparring these bantamweights. And I believe they may have brought in a lightweight. Maybe it was the missing link, Grant Dawson, because, he's not dangerous. He can't really hurt a fly. Someone just to test McGregor a little bit. Someone that's got some grappling like Michael Chandler. And I think McGregor may have got his fucking ass whooped so badly that he remembered, wait a second, I'm not that guy anymore. I'm washed. That ain't me. I don't know if I could fight Michael Chandler. If I'm getting KO'd by Grant Dawson, I'm joking. I don't think he got KO'd by Grant Dawson, but there's a chance that maybe during the training camp, it's been a minute since McGregor's been able to just go out there and party as much as he wants. He has to be disciplined. He's got to clean things up. Of course, he doesn't want to get his ass kicked in front of the world. Maybe he started ramping things up. Maybe he started getting in some harder sparring partners. And maybe, just maybe, Conor McGregor realized, wait a second, I don't want to do this. Why am I trying to fight? I'm filthy rich. I've got a nice family. What am I doing trying to prepare for a fight? I could get knocked out in front of the world. Let me ask for some more bread. Let me ask for a better situation. And McGregor, he's off the walls. Conor McGregor's fucking crazy. And I know he's a professional with a lot of the shit that he does. I don't think McGregor's just pulling out of the press conference because he partied the night before. Say what you want about Conor McGregor. He's a professional and he doesn't mess around when it comes down to business. I don't think he would have just not showed up because he's been partying too much. I mean, he did a whole press tour for his movie with Jake Gyllenhaal where he was, twitching around in every interview. He seemed like he was coming down from drugs. He was still showing up to his mandatory interviews. Conor McGregor, with injuries, has shown up to every single fight. I don't think Conor's ever pulled out of a fight. I think there's been one fight that was canceled that was supposed to be on UFC 200 that got moved to UFC 202. That was one situation, but for the most part, McGregor's never pulled out due to an injury. He'll show up with an injury, all right? He's a professional in that regard. He's a great businessman. I don't think he's just not showing up to the press conference because he's been getting too high or, the UFC's finally deciding to pull the plug because they don't want McGregor to represent them on the main stage because he's turned into a drunken fool. I don't think it's that. I think McGregor is kind of coming to terms that, you know what? I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. This is not for me. And I actually don't like my situation. I actually don't like whatever agreement he had with the UFC when they officially announced this fight in passing. They never should have done it at a press conference. They should have done it, in a more grandiose way. That's the real way to announce a McGregor comeback. And I think he and Dana White had a bit of a dispute right before the press conference. Maybe they were still trying to figure some things out, which is stupid of the UFC. Again, the UFC, I love the UFC, but they always book fights and fighters will end up having an issue with the booking, or fighters will say, dude, I didn't even know that fight was booked, or I never even signed the contract. We've heard that a million times with guys like Paulo Costa, Ikram Aleskarov. We even heard that with Dustin Poirier, Benoit Saint-Denis, with Sergey Pavlovich being booked to fight Volkov. They didn't even know that they were booked to fight. They hadn't even signed their contracts. The UFC is kind of known for booking fights without actually getting both fighters to sign. Maybe there was some kind of a verbal agreement. Yeah, we'll get this sorted out in Dublin right before the press conference. We'll figure it out. McGregor was asking for more. Again, maybe the guy got his fucking ass whipped by a sparring partner that wasn't a bantamweight from Bellator. You know what I mean? That's very possible. Either way, they just deleted all of his fights off of YouTube. That's their main man. They must have had a serious disagreement. They just deleted your ability to pre-order the event. Okay? Because they can't market it as McGregor versus Chandler anymore. And no one's going to buy Jamal Hill versus Carlos Ulberg unless you're a real hardcore fan. McGregor's the guy that brings in the casual fans. All right? They don't want to market this event under McGregor and Chandler. And they just upset thousands of Irish people that were supposed to be at that press conference. I don't think this was just for a little reason. The fight's not happening. It's off. Forget about it. And I actually think that's the good move for Conor McGregor. I don't think that he needs to come back. As a fan, I want to see him fight. But McGregor doesn't need to fight again. All right? Sure, he'll get some money from it. Sure, he'll get to stay relevant. But at the end of the day, he's been doing an all right time just by teasing the fans with a possible comeback every 6 months. Right? McGregor's always going to events, BKFC events, facing off with people. He doesn't need it. And he certainly doesn't need to get knocked out in front of the whole world. Okay? He's made it, and he's got a lot of money. He'll continue to make a lot of money. What's he fighting for? I think that's really what it comes down to. McGregor's realizing, I don't want to do this. All right? Or I want more. It's not enough. It's not enough because I think he may have started to realize, wait a second, I'm not able to take these calf kicks anymore. Remember, McGregor had one of the most horrific injuries in UFC history. Only a couple people come to mind. Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman, those guys have done horribly in the octagon after those injuries. Some guys are never the same after that. And pair the injury with the fact that McGregor's been partying and, having a vacation in Marbella, Spain every other week, filming movies. We used to talk about Ronda Rousey and how she wasn't focused because she was filming movies. And look, everyone that films a movie gets KO'd in their next fight. McGregor was filming movies. He got the worst injury in UFC history. He's partying. He's in Marbella, Spain. He's at the Black Forge Inn smoking big blunts, eating ice cream cones. Up at 3 a.m. listening to house music. When he's training with bantamweights from Bellator. And when he's hitting pads, he's hitting the big meaty pads. He's hitting the big round pads. He's not even hitting the small ones that are small targets. McGregor is realizing, wait a second, I ain't that guy anymore. And that's okay. That's all right. He doesn't have to be. Right? He doesn't have to be. That's why I'm not interested in seeing Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Tyson ain't that guy anymore. And it's also disgusting. I don't want to see Jake Paul knock out Mike Tyson. You got to feel bad for Chandler, though. Really. I mean, Chandler has had the last 2.5 years wasted. Last 2.5 years. The last couple of years, he is still in somewhat good shape to be an elite level fighter. He's completely wasted them. Now he's damn near 40 years old. Been waiting on Conor McGregor. So the fight's not happening. Chandler has had his time wasted. The UFC's deleted all traces of Conor McGregor in UFC 303. I think it's a dispute. I think part of it has to do with the fact that McGregor wasn't happy with the deal that he was on, and he kind of figured that out at the last second when he couldn't take a leg kick in sparring, maybe. And, yeah, here we are. How do we save the event? All right, so let's look at this main card. The McGregor fight, the Chandler fight, that's the thing that we need to fix. Here are my ideas. You could book Michael Chandler versus someone else and keep him as the main event. But here's an even better idea. You book Michael Chandler against someone else as a co-main event. You take the co-main event, Jamal Hill versus Carlos Ulberg, and you move it down to a feature fight. All right? Main event. This is the idea. Alex Pereira, he said he wants to stay active. Magomed Ankalaev is calling for Abu Dhabi. There's an Abu Dhabi card coming up this summer. That's pretty soon. How active does he want to stay if Abu Dhabi's not close enough? Book Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev for the main event of International Fight Week. Michael Chandler versus whoever the heck is going to fill in is not main event worthy for UFC 303 International Fight Week. So we're going to think about a Michael Chandler opponent. Alex Pereira, main event for International Fight Week. That's the only guy that I can think of that's not beat up. Sure, you could do Ilia Topuria, but against who? Maybe Ilia Topuria versus Brian Ortega versus Evloev last second? That's the only other champion that's not that beat up. And you're not going to do Holloway and Ilia Topuria on short notice. That fight is too good to make on short notice. Every other champ is pretty beat up, okay? Alex Pereira didn't take any damage in his fight with Jamal Hill, and Magomed Ankalaev hasn't fought since January. Let's make that a main event, because I'm pretty sure that Alex Pereira always stays in shape. He's not cutting to 85 anymore. He doesn't need 3 months' notice to make the weight. Magomed Ankalaev is going to leap at the bits to get this opportunity. Let's do that. Or you could do Alex Pereira versus someone else. Some other entertaining striker. Maybe Yuri Prochazka part 2. You could do that. My point is Pereira, he's a big name. He's a fan favorite. He headlined UFC 300. I'm pretty sure he'd be willing to headline 303. All right? And it's not that close. All right? It's not that close to UFC 300. At least it's a couple months removed. Why not? That's how you save the card. Michael Chandler versus whoever the fuck you want for the co-main event. All right? He deserves a paycheck. He's had his last 2.5 years wasted. I don't think he should wait for McGregor anymore. He's in shape. He's been peaking. This is it. All right? Sooner or later, Michael Chandler's going to crash and burn out and get injured because of how long he's been training. Put him up against someone. I'm trying to think. Gagey got knocked out recently. Holloway took damage even though he didn't get his ass whooped. He still took damage. He was in a 5-rounder. A hard-fought fight. Who else could you do? I don't know. Maybe someone at 170. He's been preparing for 170 either way. Shavkat Rakhmonov. Maybe something like that. I don't care. Someone that's going to give us a good, entertaining fight versus Michael Chandler. Jamal Hill, Carlos Ulberg. Feature fight. All right? Mario Buenasilva, Macy Chiasson. Make it the main event. No. Get it off the main card! Get it off the main card! All right? You get that off the main card. You put Cub Swanson and Andre Feely on the main card instead. Joe Pyfer, Marc-Andre Barriou, great. Ian Machado, Gary Michael Page, great. Fuck it, put Peyton Talbot on the main card if you don't want to do Cub Swanson, but I think he deserves it a little bit more. Perfect. We just saved it. We saved UFC 303. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev or Yuri Prochazka as a title fight. Okay, Michael Chandler co-main event versus someone at welterweight or someone at lightweight that's going to give him a battle. Jamal Hill, Carlos Ulberg, feature fight. Mario Buenasilva, Macy Chiasson, opener of the early prelims. Get it off the main card. Joe Pyfer, Ian Gary, Cub Swanson, fixed. That's how we do it. All right? No need to panic. We just saved it all. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.